Hey guys, congratulations. This is our last lab, and it's about mechanics of throwing. So, originally, this lab, you'll be paired up with a partner, and you will have 15 minutes to instruct them to throw a tennis ball as far as possible. So you need to watch they throw, and then evaluate their skill, and then instruct them. So that's pretty much qualitative analysis, right? That you've learned from a lecture recently. And there are four steps of qualitative analysis, which are preparation, observation, evaluation, and instruction. And in this video, we're going to go through these four steps. So for preparation step, that means you need to do your homework, right? You need to know what to look at before you really evaluate your client. So for this lab, our goal is to throw a tennis ball as far as possible. That means we need to maximize the horizontal displacement of the ball. And that's a projectile motion, right, that we've done in Lab 3. And there are three critical elements to maximize the horizontal displacement, which are takeoff velocity, release angle, and release height, right? So in Lab 3, you need these three elements, so you can put into the equations to calculate the horizontal displacement. Like if you have takeoff velocity, you have the release angle, then you can get horizontal and vertical velocity and put it into each equation to get a variable you want. Right. And for these elements, like for takeoff velocity, we want as fast as possible, right? We want to maximize the takeoff velocity. And for release angle, from math, we know 45 degrees is the best to maximize the displacement. And for release height, we want as high as possible. So think about, imagine you're instructing your partner. We want to maximize their velocity. So we want to maximize the strength and some skills like in preparation phase. And also we want to make their releasing angle as close as possible to 45 degrees. And for release height, we want as high as possible, but that's pretty hard to change. We can only change a little bit in one individual. So we're probably focusing on the first two variables. But do you think you can do your maximum velocity at 45 degrees? We know if you look at some javelin throwers, their releasing angle is usually a little bit less than 45 degrees. That's because for human body, it's easier to generate more horizontal velocity than vertical velocity. So if the vertical component is larger than if the horizontal component is larger than vertical component, then the degree would be a little bit less than 45. So there might be a trade-off, but that's also different in each individual. So you need to evaluate your client to see if they can do that, and to see if you want to have if there is a trade-off, you want the angle first or velocity first. That's also depend on each individual. If adjust a little bit angle will reduce a lot of velocity, then probably you need to restore velocity first. So that's also different in each individual. You need to look into your client. You need to really know your client's ability. Okay, and that's just about this part. When you release, you want a maximum velocity and 45 degrees. But there are actually a lot of things happen before that instant, right? During the preparation phase. So during this phase, you want to focus on sequential activation or summation of force. So you can accumulate all the force from foot to body to your hand and then release the object you want to throw. And for sequential activation, these are two big principles. We want to move the heaviest and slowest body part first. So we want to move our whole body or our center of mass first. So you take a step to increase the velocity of your trunk and your whole body, and then you activate your arm, right? So we accelerate our body first, then we accelerate our extremities. And the second part is we need to use as many body part as possible to generate maximum force. That sounds like super intuitive, but that's usually not achieved in the first throw. So you need to make sure they did their all-out effort, and the preferential phase will help them to generate force from all their body parts. And also for sequential activation, not just the sequence, but the timing is also important. So for example, you generate the force from your body first, but if you activate your arm earlier or later than the peak, then you'll get less force. So for example, if you activate your arm too early, that'll happen here. And if you activate your arm too late, that'll be here. And the most optimal solution is to activate each body part at the other's peak. So your force of body generates a peak here, then you activate your arm here. And then you activate your forearm at the peak force from your arm. So not just the sequence, but also the timing. Okay, and here are some good resources. The first is a journal paper, and the other two are YouTube videos for javelin throw and a quarterback throw a football. So they talk about some mechanics that you can take a look at. Yeah. But actually the solutions are pretty open-ended. There is no best solution. You need to really know your client. You need to really know the movement. So then you can generate the best solution for like the customized solution for each individual. For example, in our manual, you'll see question. One of the questions is ask you to rate the relative importance of these 5 factors. Yeah, we know those are all pretty important, but before rating them, you need to know what does each factor contribute to the movement. So for your strength, for example, if you have strength, then you probably have a pretty good muscle power. Then that's an important part to generate maximum acceleration, right? And for flexibility, for example, if you look at the baseball pitch and from the wind-up phase to arm cocking phase, you take a pretty big step here. That helps you to accelerate your trunk, right? We need to move our heaviest body part first. So that step will generate a big acceleration of your whole body. Then you can activate your extremities after that. So if you have good flexibility, you can take a pretty big step that helps you to generate more force. And also, if you have better flexibility, the path of your baseball can be longer, right? You can have a bigger trunk rotation at this phase, so you can put your arm at a pretty far position before it accelerates. And also for timing, we know that's pretty important in the previous slide, right? You need to activate each body part at the peak of previous body part. So the timing is pretty important. And accuracy, you want for example, the release angle to be accurately 45 degrees. So accuracy is also important. For balance, you need to generate a pretty stable base before you really accelerate your upper arm or your wrist, right? If your balance is bad, you don't have a good base of support, then you won't be able to generate an all-out force, right? So that's how these 5 factors contribute to this movement. And we know everybody will have different answers, and that's fine, because the main purpose is to help you think about each factor and its relationship to the movement. So the the important part is to think about it, not the answer itself. Okay. And then after preparation phase, you can observe your client and evaluate them, right? And this body part checklist is in your manual. You can see that, and it helps you to make sure you've looked at all the essential body parts during observation. For example, for body segments, you've looked from feet to hip to trunk and to your wrist and head. And also, you need to look at preparation phase, action phase, and follow through. So this checklist will help you to make sure you look at all the essential component of the movement. So for example, in the arm cocking phase, which is a preparation phase here, and you need to check the shoulder external rotation and extension, and also the elbow flexion. So you need to know which body part should do what kind of action in each phase. And also in action phase, we do shoulder internal rotation, flexion, and also elbow extension and wrist extension. So if you have the body part checklist, you'll be able to check. You won't miss any crucial component during evaluation. Okay, and after observation and evaluation, go to instruction. In this lab, you will have 15 minutes to improve your client's skill to throw a tennis ball as far as possible. And these are two big principles during instruction. The first one is part to whole learning. So for example, in evaluation, you figure out some flaws in their body part. For example, they didn't take a big enough step. Then you can help them to practice that step first, and then finally you need to combine them into a whole movement. So you can work on each body part and then combine them into a whole movement. And also, when you identify a lot of flaws in a first observation, and you need to know what to instruct first. You can instruct the factor that is easy to correct first, and also you need to correct the movement that will cause injury first. So safety is always more important than performance. Okay, so that's probably all you need to know of qualitative analysis for this lab. And I will talk about the assignment in next clip.